A report by a Philadelphia city commissioner indicates there were hundreds of voter irregularities in that city this year. According to City Commissioner Al Schmidt, a review of the 2012 primary election in Philadelphia uncovered hundreds of cases, from voting by non-registered individuals, even non-citizens, to voting places with more votes than voters.
Some are fraud, some are clearly mistakes, but they are all voting irregularities, and they all impact the outcome of elections equally. Any of those cases, whether it's somebody voting in a different primary or it's somebody voting twice or voting for someone else, has as much weight to it as my vote or your vote.
Schmidt says while some groups claim there is no voting fraud and others claim there are hundreds of thousands of cases, the truth is somewhere in between. But he says it's clearly a mistake to measure the extent of voter fraud by the amount of prosecutions.
Whenever the discussion goes on about whether there's identity theft or voter fraud or voting irregularities, typically the answer is, well, you need to, how many cases have been prosecuted of this sort of thing? And if you were to use that as your guide, then jaywalking is a very infrequent thing that occurs in Philadelphia. If you only go by how many cases are prosecuted, there are all sorts of things that are illegal and for one reason or another aren't prosecuted because they're either minor or because they're very difficult to prove and because law enforcement is always having to walk a balance between their resources and their priorities.
Schmidt recommends a comprehensive review of all election-related documents after every election and public reports on findings. Earlier this year, state lawmakers approved a voter ID law designed to prevent voter fraud from occurring, a step supported by a majority of Pennsylvanians.
Voters across party lines, from Democrat to Republican to Independent, believe in supermajority fashion that when they cast their vote, that vote should have the protection of their government, of we the people who cast our votes to choose who are going to govern us, deserve to make sure that we have integrity in our election process. And how else can you do that other than to ensure when somebody votes, they are who they claim to be?
The voter ID law is facing court challenge, but the bill's sponsors say it was modeled after an Indiana law, which was upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court.